Why is bird in-flight photography so hard? Ask anybody. It's very hard. To start off with, our gear is so heavy. You're looking nearly 3.5 kilos of trying to hand hold this when you're trying to sort of move around, track a bird wherever it's going, coming towards you, going that way. Today, I want to talk about why I feel bird in flight photography is so hard. When we talk about bird in flight photography, an image like this osprey carrying this large branch back to its nest is what we're envisioning. Like this sea eagle just flying overhead. These are images that we all wish we could take on a regular basis. A bird with a clean background. But these two bird in flight images are the exception. But a lot of the time, this is what we're faced with. A bird with a very busy background and us trying to track the bird with a busy background. It makes focusing very difficult. All this white-faced heron just about to land, but look at the background. There's all these rocks. It blends into the background. Not only do we have to track the bird, but we also have to make sure that we choose the correct AF mode so that the camera will lock into our subject and won't look at the background. Sometimes a very busy background, a blurry background, doesn't matter at all. Like this eastern great egret just flying across the lake. It is so different that the camera will lock onto it very easily because it stands out so well against the background. That even though this background is very busy, the camera had no problems at all locking on to this egret as it flew low over the lake. At times, our subject might be flying very quickly across our frame. Not only do we have to choose the correct AF mode, we also have to make sure that our shutter speed is fast enough to freeze the frame of these birds because these birds are very small. And you can see here, I'm shooting at 2.5 thousandths of a second. The ISO is up to 2000, but when I photograph birds in flight, I don't worry about the ISO. I'm just worried about the shutter speed and the aperture, and the ISO is on auto, so whatever the ISO gives me, I will accept. At other times, you get caught with birds flying towards you, like this flock of seagulls and a few waders. They were flying directly towards me, so the camera has to be able to track them as they're coming towards you. And on this day, these seagulls took off because there was a raptor circling overhead, and I took around 30 odd photos, and only about 15 of them were in focus. The rest of them were just blurred because the camera just couldn't keep up with the birds flying so quickly towards me. And as you've just seen, images like these black swans flying overhead on a beautiful cloudless day isn't the norm for bird in flight photography. We have to accept whatever nature gives us. Now, some photographers can't photograph birds in flight just by hand holding their cameras like this, just shooting away. Now, I can't hand hold my camera. I need a monopod or a tripod just because of health issues. A tripod is great if the bird is just on the ground walking around, but if it's for birds in flight, then the only thing that I use is a monopod. And I've recently upgraded my monopod from just a standard monopod to a monopod with feet. And I'll put the link up here where I review and I talk about why this monopod is so good for bird photography, and especially when photographing birds in flight. On my Nikon Z6 II, there are only 3 AF modes that I choose when I want to photograph bird in flight photos. And these are wide area AF small, wide area AF large, and dynamic area. Also, on my Z6 II, I use the fastest shutter mode possible, which is continuous high extended, which gives me around 8.5 to 9 frames per second. And that does me fine. If I use just continuous high, it only gives me 5.5 frames per second. That's fine if the bird is just walking around foraging for food. But when it comes to bird in flight photography, you need to be using the fastest shutter mode possible. And on my Z6 II, that is continuous high extended. It comes with a few drawbacks, but I feel that that is the best shutter mode to use. Now let me show you the results of these modes that I use. So this first one here is of an intermediate egret. I'm using wide area AF small, 8.5 frames per second, and the video is just a quarter speed. 25 photos were taken, 21 in focus and 3 not in focus. And you can see this behavior is very peculiar for this bird. I've never seen this bird behave like this, apart from on this day. Here is real time at 8.5 frames per second. This is the first time that I've seen an intermediate egret or any egret behave like this over water. It looked like it was just hovering. You can see that I had a very high success rate using wide area AF small, and that really is because the bird hardly moved. Normally my hit rate is around 30%. That's just me. These next two sets of bird flight images were taken in wide area AF large. And when I go to photograph birds in flight, I make a choice whether I'm going to choose wide area AF small or wide area AF large, depending on the bird and the habitat that it's in, the background that it's in. If it's a bird that is in the sky, I will normally use wide area AF small. For a small bird or a bird that's far from me, the bird is quite close, I will use wide area large because it gives it more ability to lock onto the bird. The first one here, the white ibis, it was quite close to me, only about 10 meters. That's why I chose wide area large. You can see 21 photos were taken, 7 in focus, 14 not in focus. And here it is, it's just taking off, and I'm just too slow at trying to track it. This is why my success rate was so low. But when the bird is quite close to you and it takes off, it just happens so quickly. Now this next set is of greater crested tern. 34 photos were taken, 18 in focus, 16 not in focus, and I started tracking it when it was quite close, and I just tried to do my best following around the sky, and these birds just go up, down, sideways, so they're not the easiest birds to track. The camera's doing a fairly good job, but look, the bird's going up, then it's going to come back down again, and I'm just too slow at trying to follow the bird. Remember also, I'm at 500 mils for all these shots, so the bird can move out of the frame very quickly. Look at it, it just happens so quickly. Now this next set were taken in dynamic area AF. Now this is an autofocus mode that I rarely use now for normal bird photography because I've been caught out so many times that in dynamic area AF it has a small square in the center, which is like single point, but then you have 8 little squares around it, and these help the camera to focus. But I've found that if the bird is on the water or if I'm low to the ground, that the camera will focus in front. It will lock focus on the first 3 little dots there. The only time I use dynamic area AF now is for birds in flight, especially with a clean background like this next set of images here. 23 photos taken, 18 in focus, 4 not in focus. And you can see it's just slowly moving around. I'm trying to do my best, but it's just not good enough. This is why I say it's so hard. Now here comes real time. Now as I stated, like when you look through the viewfinder, this is what you see, the center square and 8 little red squares around it. But when you're reviewing the photos on your camera, this is all you're seeing. You're seeing just a center square. That is just how the camera is made up. You'll only see those 8 little red squares when you're in live view, so when you're actually taking the photo. Once you want to review the photo, you'll only see the center square. Those other little squares don't show up because they're not the focus point. They're just there to help the main focus point lock onto your subject. Now this next set of intermediate egret were taken in wide area AF small, and I could see the bird was just about to take off. I started shooting, but my success rate was better than normal because I took 21 photos, 14 were in focus, 7 were not in focus. Here it goes, it's just taking off now, and you can see it's a very big square here because I'm in DX mode, so it's cropped in quite a bit. Now here's real time. It just happened so quickly. The bird's moving towards me, but it was still too quick for me. Like it came towards me and then right at the end, it just ducked to the side. And that's when I was just too slow to sort of move it. I missed out on quite a few frames. I know that this is a problem with my gear, so I know my success rate is not going to be even close to 70 or 80%, but I'm very happy. And maybe you can see also why bird in flight photography is hard for you as well. Understand also that like most photography, the more you practice, the better you get. If you want to get better at bird in flight photography, you really need to get out there as much as possible. It doesn't mean going out somewhere where you know, even from your backyard, like there'll be crows flying around, there'll be other sorts of birds. If there's planes around, learn to track a plane, especially a little small prop plane, because they're lower, so they look like they're moving much quicker. This will help you photograph birds in flight much better. If you enjoyed the video, give it a big thumbs up. If you've got any comments or feedback, leave it in the comment box below. Enjoy your bird photography, and I'll see you next time.